Daniel, what is up? My name is Dempsey. I am a writer and a critic for a site called Cinefied. It is a pleasure to be speaking with you today.
Pleasure speaking to you.
We're talking about a very special film here, Deathstalker.
Deathstalker.
I'm fascinated. I looked up your IMDb, and you're mostly known for like your stunt work. So I'm just curious, like, how did you take this leap into, being someone who did all the badass things behind the scenes and now you're doing all the badass stuff still, but you're at the forefront of your very own film. Talk to me. What does that
So
mean to
I
you?
paid somebody a lot of money. I paid him a lot of money and I said, hey, you got to hire me. I don't know if I'm going to put a hit on you. I'm kidding. I'm joking. My first film I did 30 years ago, I was actually a leading actor. I did a movie called Bloodsport 2. That was back in like 95. Right away, I starred in about five movies. That kind of went away. And then I went over into the action world, stunt action world. And I did a lot of supporting roles in films like John Wick, Logan, Atomic Blonde, Extraction. Don't get me wrong, incredible parts, right? Incredible parts, really cool parts. And then when I got the call a year ago, a little more than a year and a half ago, from Steven Kostanski, and he said, "Hey, I want you to play Deathstalker." I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" What? And he goes, "Yeah, you." And Steven was a huge fan of mine from the Bloodsport movies and from Mortal Kombat Conquest that I did in 1998, which came out in 2000. So he watched it as a kid, and that inspired him to hire me for Deathstalker. So he pitched me the whole show. He pitched me the idea, me fighting monsters and spin kicking them in the head and slicing their heads off with my sword. I was like, I'm in.
That's incredible. And I have a sneaky suspicion that he had a similar like the way in which Patton Oswalt is involved in this movie is very similar to the way in which he recruited you. I can't wait to ask him about that later. But I'm really curious to know, like, so he called you asking you to be a part of this movie. You obviously said yes, but you didn't really know what the movie was about, right? Like, what really drew you to
No,
this
he
role?
pitched it to me. First of all, I was a fan of the old movies. I love that kind of genre of movies. I love that genre. And then him pitching me the idea, hey, you got to be running around with tight pants, high boots, your shirt with your arms cut off, you could show your muscles, and swinging a sword with long hair, and I have a wind machine blowing in your hair, so in every scene your hair is blowing. That was a joke.
Well, you know what? Honestly, if it really happened, I'd believe it because this movie, like, it's so over the top. I was just talking to my editor in chief about this. The fact that Dudat, like his lips don't
Do
move the whole movie.
that. Do that.
His lips don't move the whole movie, and at first it's kind of unsettling, but then you're like, realistically, this is what it looked like in the '80s. All those characters, and it fits along perfectly with all the like really excessive gore and like there isn't. I want to rewatch the movie and actually count how many times somebody's head get cut off because I really
So
do
many
think
times.
you could have a drinking game out of that, honestly. But that is amazing. Now you talked to me, you said that you really like this genre of movies. Is there any particular movie or movies or series from the 80s or the 90s that you think this project really I guess gets a lot of inspiration from?
I mean, I was always a huge Conan fan. I mean, that was kind of me, back in the 80s watching those kind of movies. I love it so much, and I'm a huge Schwarzenegger fan. So now me running around like, with the wig, with my arms showing, and of course I'm not as big as Arnold, but I tried as much as I could to be as big as I can, running around with a massive sword and slicing people's heads off. I mean, I was like, come on.
There's a through line in this where you basically there's like a hint at your past, right? You and another character used to be really good friends, but then you decided to do the right thing. He got seduced by the darkness. Um,
Joe Tag.
do you think that like the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, it feels like an episode of something, like it's some pulled from like some sort of serial, and you want to obviously we get those little pieces from these different characters, those little scenes that give us the backstory. Do you think that this is part of like a planned franchise? Have you had those discussions? Uh,
I mean, listen, I mean, I would love for this to be a franchise. I have like a million. Steven and I, while we're doing the movie, we already have stories for another three. We have ideas for a TV show. We have an idea for a mini series. We want to continue with this. If people love this movie as much as we love it, as much as you love it, so it is really important for your readers and your viewers. They gotta go watch it in theaters. October 10th. Check your local listings. It's a This movie has to be seen in theaters. And if you miss it in the theaters, then of course watch it on digital. But if you guys watch it, we can do more.
Of course. And then just want to backtrack a little bit about because I did mention the special effects or the practical effects. Was there any one in particular that stands out as your favorite or the most difficult to accomplish? One that maybe took a little bit longer to shoot just because of how intricate it may have been to set up?
I mean, I was telling the story where one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is actually the beginning because it was our beginning. So when we shot the scenes where Steven comes up to me and he goes, "Hey Daniel, are you okay if I don't show your face for like the first 7 minutes of the movie?" And I'm like, "No, of course. If this is your vision, if this is what you want to do, I think it's a great idea." And he goes, "Oh, okay. I want to make sure you're okay with this." I'm like, "You're the director. This is your vision. I'm just here to support you." And in the beginning, when I steal the ring and all of that, you never see my face. When I fight the Treadites, you never really see me. And that was a tough scene to shoot because we did a previs, we rehearsed the whole scene, but we rehearsed it in clothing like this. And then when we came to set, the rocks on the ground, the rough terrain, the stunt guys were wearing these Treadite suits. It was very different. So we had to adapt. But when we shot that scene, I think we shot this scene in about 2 hours, that fight scene. We all went like, we got something special. And then a lot of credit to our DP, Andy. Andy goes, "Hey Daniel, come over here." And he showed me on the monitor. He put on, you know what a LUT is? A LUT is he puts on the LUT. He goes, "This is how it's gonna look like." And I was like, holy moly. So I had an idea now. That was in the very beginning. I had an idea what this movie's actually gonna look like. You know, that was very special. One of my favorite moments.
That's awesome. And then what are you hoping that others enjoy? Like to me, I really I appreciate, and this goes for all of Steve's movies. I appreciate the fact that all of them are, for the most part, very practical. And it's this movie is a clear throwback to films of like the 80s and the 90s, as we discussed. But all of his films, I really feel like they capture the real magic of what movie making is about. Like all the stuff that like Tom Savini used to do.
It's art.
Yes, it's true art.
This is art. Steven gets all the credit for this movie. I'm just one of his puppets. So he built some of the puppets. I was already built. I did a little bit more building, but this is Steven's movie. He gets all the credit. He crafted a little masterpiece. His vision is extraordinary. He worked so hard on this movie. He built all his own monsters. That's all him and his team building the monsters. You know?
That's incredible. That's incredible. And hopefully, people feel the same way that I did watching this. When they see it, I will do my due diligence and tell everybody I know to go see it.
You
But Daniel,
must, otherwise they come and get you.
Deathstalker will find me. That
Yeah,
that
fine.
that should be the tagline, of the
Deathstalker
DVD.
will find you.
No, but Daniel, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your hard work and your true passion. It shines through in this film, and I
Thank you
cannot
so
wait
much.
to see what you guys do next. And hopefully, it is some more Deathstalker.
I will love it. Thank you so much.
What's up, Steven? My name is Dempsey Pillot. I am a writer and a critic for a site called Cinefied. It is a pleasure to be speaking with you because I've been a fan of your work for the better part of a decade, even though I know you've been working long before that. But I started with The
Oh,
Void.
thank
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I've been obsessed ever since. And every time I see that you're coming out with something new, I'm like, oh my God, I got to watch it. So super excited to be chatting with you today. I am particularly interested in just the so since the void, you've done all these wild things, and each idea seems crazier than the last. And this yet again hits into that pattern. It's something totally left field that I wasn't expecting. But it feels like such a love letter to like almost everything that like every modern fantasy and sci-fi action movie of today is. So talk to me about how you stumbled upon this idea and why you wanted to pursue it.
I mean, I've always loved fantasy stuff, like not just movies, but like as a kid, I grew up on a lot of like fantasy PC games, like Hexen and Heretic and Diablo. I was playing as a kid. Um, Even like kind of a extension of that, like stuff like Mortal Kombat has fantasy elements to it. Um, but yeah, just really, like really visually imaginative video games. But then also like I played Magic cards, fantasy TV shows, Xena, Hercules. So yeah, and people ask me like, oh, my inspirations for Deathstalker. It's not just those movies. It's kind of like a bigger concept of like what was fantasy to me growing up, and what was it about it that excited me. And yeah, it was always like really just like the imaginative scenarios and like creatures that you could come up with in these different fantasy worlds. So that's what I wanted to do with Deathstalker. I was presented with a list of Roger Corman properties that were up for reimagining, and so having been a fan of Deathstalker already, I went right down the list to the D's, saw it was there, and was like, "Can we please option this for a remake slash sequel, sort of?" Um, so yeah, because I just saw it as like a sandbox to play in to do all the fantasy stuff that I've pent up fantasy stuff that I've wanted to get off my chest for a long time. And that's kind of each of my movies is that it's like me in a different subgenre, just like getting all that creativity out of my system because it's just rattling around in my brain. Like Frankie Frico was definitely me wanting to just do like a fun little monster movie, and everything that I wanted with that I crammed into it. Psycho Gourmet is me wanting to do the like fish out of water, uh like alien meets suburban family scenario, and like everything that comes with that, with like kind of the sci-fi action tropes of that. And so Deathstalker is just like every action fantasy thing that I've wanted to do but haven't had an opportunity to do. And yeah, just crammed into this movie.
Yeah, big shout out to Psycho Gourmand. It's like one of my favorite movies of like the past decade too. It's really
Well,
great.
thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, you're right when you say like everything is like coming out of left field and I'm making these like weird swings. It's I feel like that's the only way to a really satisfying filmography is I can't just repeat what came before. I have to do something new. And my way of doing that is just picking different subgenres within the broader concept of genre.
No,
And
it-
but
awesome.
yeah,
It
I do
works.
find even with Deathstalker, I'm noticing like there are definitely like tropes that like Steve Kostanski movie tropes that are carrying through each movie. Uh, and so, yeah, I like that even though they're all wildly different, I feel like there is consistency, uh, tonally and thematically with all of them, which is nice.
And I would say with the practical effects, which are incredible here. The one thing I could not stop thinking about while I was watching this is like, how did you come up with the design? I see right behind your shoulder, you have some characters. I think all of them are in the film, right?
I mean, which two? I think only one of these is in Deathstalker. That's from Deathstalker.
Yeah,
That's Psycho Gorman. That's the Void.
that is Psycho Gourmet. Okay.
Frankie Rico. That's just a thing I made up. That's Psycho Gorman. That guy over. This guy here is a Deathstalker guy. So I'll talk you through. Here's my design process. Uh, the like underskull of this guy, uh, a friend of mine just gave me because he had made a mask and didn't know what to do with it. So he's like, "Can you do something with this?" And so it was just like a clear. You can see it's like a clear plastic thing underneath. So I took that and I was like, "Okay, I need this sequence where Necromemnon materializes as this like monster creature." I had this, and so I just started like buttering silicone onto it, and there's like women's like nylons that I coat silicone with to make the weird webbing, And I'm just kind of, I guess what I'm getting at is I ended up just making it up as I went along, and a lot of this stuff is I try to sidestep the process of doing like a, a full on like ZBrush 3D model of my characters, or like hiring concept artists to do all these concepts. It's usually just like kind of making shit up as I go. That's not to discredit. I did have concept artists do sketches for me, but I specifically had them keep it very loose. Like they were literal like sketches, not even colored. So it was just more like a vague form of what these things would look like. And I would build off of that. Because to me, half the fun of design is designing as you're building. So as you're making things, you're thinking about like, well, how is the actor going to wear this? What does this character need to do? It to me, it's like kind of counterintuitive to try and lock all that in right at stage one of like, being handed a piece of paper with a Photoshop job or a ZBrush design on, being like, make this thing. I feel like it's not realistic, especially this type of movie where every character is super physical and has to do all these different things. So I kind of like figure those things out as I'm building. And so yeah, my design process may be a little backwards, but I think it leads to some pretty fun stuff.
Not backwards at all. What I wanted to tell you is that I feel like your process is very reminiscent of like what Guillermo del Toro does, which is like he draws all his things in like his that thick notebook he always has. So
Yeah, of
it
course.
yeah, so it sounds like exactly kind of what you're doing, except yours is more of you go beyond the page where you actually just play around with what you have and then you create it, which is amazing and it looks beautiful, honestly.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, even stuff like the red guys, like I sculpted that while I was writing the script. Like I had this idea in my head, and I don't love writing as much as I love making monsters. So really, it was me procrastinating and just being like, I'm gonna start jamming this out. But it's fun to be able to like be writing the scenarios that these creatures are in as I'm actually physically making the thing, and it's like each is informing the other in a way as I'm doing them. And so a few of the creatures actually worked out like that, like the acolytes, these like kind of pulsing meat blob creatures. I also sculpted those while I was writing the script still. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a very fluid process, and I don't think there is a proper step by step pipeline to follow. I think that you can kind of do it all at the same time, and to get to more interesting results. So yeah.
And I think I only have time for one more question. So I have to ask you about this. Daniel, I spoke to him earlier and he told me that you had personally reached out to him to play this
Yes.
role. When I thought I heard Patton's voice in this movie, and then I got a whiplash flashback because I realized that the only reason I had even heard of The Void was because I remember seeing him tweet about the movie
Oh
online,
yeah.
say like heavily promoting it. So I'm wondering, is there a connection there? Is that have you guys? How long have you guys known each other? And like, just talk to me about how you decided to get him in on this project.
I mean, I feel like there's just been this connection with him for the past decade. Like, yeah, he was very vocal about The Void and Psycho Gorman as well. He's a very passionate genre fan and very supportive. And so that's how I was able to connect with him. I also had, like we've kind of been in the same Zoom meetings for other projects, to kind of put it as vaguely as I can. So, so yeah, we've spoken before, and like we're both aware of each other and want to trying to work together on stuff. So when this project came about, it just seemed like a no-brainer to try and reach out and be like, hey, at the very least, like I know you're a busy guy, but can you swing one day in an ADR studio and just record all the lines for this character? And yeah, it was a super fun day. It was like a real sprint to get it all done. I had to do it. I was sitting in this room on Zoom while he was recording his lines, but it was super fun. And I just feel like he elevates the whole movie. It's such a weird, like everything in the movie, super weird. Just hearing him in this movie and the fact that he's in it is crazy. But everything about this movie is crazy. So I think it works.
Good crazy, and like I
Yep.
said, I think it's just another hallmark in your filmography, and I cannot wait to see what you do next, Stephen. Thank you so much for your time today, and I will do my due diligence in telling everybody to watch this movie because I think it really is great.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.